Welcome everyone to this month's SpEd teacher cohort. We are working on special transportation today, how to identify and fade needs. So instead of a PowerPoint, we are going off of two documents that you will have accessible to you on the Rum River website. So the first one, talking about special transportation in general, is where you are going to start by identifying the need. So we're talking about our federal special ed laws and then going into the 5 core areas of where special education transportation may be offered in the IEP. It's important to note that the vast majority of special ed students use regular busing, so you're not going to be looking at this for tons and tons of students. So the first area is accessibility, which is when the regular bus is not accessible for a child. Second is social behavior. That's where maybe you are talking with the behavior analyst in your decision. You're going to be using a lot of your behavior data to decide whether a student needs special transportation in that area. The third is medical or health conditions, which is a bit more straightforward, considering all of your medical documentation that you have for the safety of the child and others. This could include a student who has seizures, has oxygen equipment, fatigue and falls asleep on the bus, or if there's assistive technology needs that need to be met, those can all possibly be met through special transportation. The fourth area doesn't apply to many of the students that you're looking at special transportation for, and that is early childhood special ed. If a child is identified for ECSE, they are eligible to receive transportation services during the program time if and when necessary. And then the last one is special placement. So that would be such as our students who are attending Rum River programs. If you, the school district, are placing a student outside of your home district, then we offer special transportation to those students as well. So it may include, but it is not limited to, vehicles with wheelchairs and lifts, smaller capacity vehicles such as vans, bus aids, or special routes needed to accommodate placements. Through the rest of this document, it touches on a few different points that are in Minnesota statute. The first one being transportation safety requirements. Also looking at least restrictive environment and considering whether a student truly is in need of special transportation or not. The next is helping students to the bus, whose responsibility it is to meet the student at the curb, whether that's maybe to make eye contact with the driver, walking into the house, etc. Next is helping students on and off the bus. So this has to do more so when we're getting to school or dropping a student off who is maybe in a wheelchair or using a 5-point harness. Talking about special education versus 504 plans. Do 504 plans require students, require us to look at special transportation? So that is included in there. Also, what differences we have with students who are open enrolled. Some school districts still choose to cross over borders. However, it is not necessary for them to do that anymore. So some parents have questions about that, and this is a really good place to get that specific information, depending on what your district does. Additionally, we also cover the length of the student's day and how altered school day can affect our transportation, as well as the length of the ride because of driver needs or fleet needs with the school. And then lastly is how the school requires the parent to transport to and from school. Can we do that? There are some cases where agreements can be entered, but it's not often that happens. because we as a school district are required to transport our students. So this is mostly the document that you are going to be referencing for your general information, and it's really helpful when you're having a discussion about whether a student needs special transportation or not. Carrie has a really great document that helps you have the discussion for fading and adding those needs, and some additional questions that you're going to want to ask yourself when you're going through that process.
All right, thanks, Marissa. So we created this document to help support you when you're in IEP meetings or having discussions regarding special transportation. Because I know, especially with the case managers I work with, sometimes it can be a little bit of a touchy, vulnerable conversation with parents. Like they're really hesitant if they get kind of nervous about their students riding the regular bus, maybe if they're in early childhood or whatever the case may be. But I think this is a great document to help support your decision-making process during those meetings. So the first, it just kind of asks the question, does your child qualify for special transportation? And that's, I think, something that a lot of parents don't always understand, that just because they're on an IEP or just because their student is on an IEP doesn't mean they automatically get special transportation, but they do have to qualify for that. So again, it just touches on those same needs that Marissa did in the first one. So mobility needs, communication needs, physical needs, health needs. And then I think the biggest one that sometimes we struggle with when to determine if they need special transportation is those behavioral needs. And so we thought that putting together this section would be helpful because it helps guide the conversation on, have we done everything in our power to keep this student in their least restrictive environment, which is the regular school bus. So want to document how many bus referrals they've had and what are the reasons for that. And have you tried any interventions to keep the student safe on the school bus? And your coordinator can definitely help with coming up with some of those interventions and things like that. And then sometimes it just is the intervention is waived due to safety concerns. So maybe the safety concerns that have come up on the bus are just too significant that you're not going to put those interventions in place. You're just going to jump right to special transportation. And again, that's why you want your coordinator or building principal to be involved in that. Early childhood special education is another one of those areas where they can qualify. And if there's not a regular bus route to transport them, and then special placement. On the bottom, Jenny, thank you. So I think one of the hardest decisions it is to make is when to fade special transportation, because I think we've all been in those situations where we have a 7th grader and we're like, why in the world is this kid still getting special transportation? Why is he still on a van? Or even just having that conversation as students go from preschool to kindergarten, and like maybe preschool, yep, they had special transportation because of the time of the programming. Well, now they're in kindergarten, really it's just they can ride the regular bus, and just making sure you have those conversations. So we included some things to consider when looking to go back to regular transportation. So how is the student progressing on their in-school behavioral goals? Has a student received any bus referrals while using special transportation? Is there a sibling or bus buddy to ride on the regular bus with? That might be more of like an early elementary situation. Is there a positive behavior support plan that addresses transportation behaviors? Are there accommodations that can be made to help the bus ride to be more successful, such as noise canceling, headphones, etc.? Does the child's medical or physical needs still exist according to updated records? So if the reason for special transportation in the beginning was some kind of medical or physical issue, but now they've kind of aged out, and say they have really significant diabetes, and when they were younger they weren't able to even be on the van, or a seizure disorder or something like that. Well, now we're 4 years down the road and the student hasn't had a seizure for a number of years. Do we have updated medical information to support that? Well, maybe they can be on the bus now instead of that special transportation, or maybe now they don't need that additional adult on the van with them because their needs have changed. Are mobility needs still impacting the student? Have you collaborated with itinerant staff regarding communication needs and the present level of need on transportation? So those are just some questions to consider when looking to fade special transportation.
Are there any questions?